So let's jump right into the topic of open banking and PSD2. Something, if you're in Europe, you might think is something that's exclusive to us Europeans, but it's not. There's lessons to be learned from regions outside of Europe. For instance, in Asia, lots of things are happening around PSD2 type of solutions. I want to introduce Dean Wallace from ACI. He's a solution practice head for ACI, who will talk about open banking and what we can learn from other regions. Dean, floor is yours.
Is that working? Yes. So I was here this time last year talking about a similar topic, and out of the panel of 4, I think I was the 4th one up, and you're given about 12 minutes. If anybody ever presents in 12 minutes, it's really quite tight, especially when the panelists before you do 15, 16 minutes, and you are then left for the short slot and you have a demo. So I promise my other panelists I'll do my best today to keep this on time. So Dean Wallace, work for ACI worldwide. Some of you might have seen Sylvia Mensdorf-Pooley's presentation this morning. She was talking about, let's move to kinder payments. I wish my topic was as cool as that. Some people might say it is. I work in our product management division for ACI worldwide. We support banks, processors, merchants, billers globally with payments solutions and software, specifically in the payments field. I work for our product management practice as practice lead for real-time and digital payments. And I'm going to talk to you about the phenomena we're seeing that we call instant and open payments. So I want to take a step back and just quickly check. We're here at an event called Merchant Payments Ecosystem. It's about serving the merchant. It's about giving something to the retailer. So we asked the retailer a few years ago, we said, what's going to be the big thing in the industry in the next few years? And they came back, I mean, being an immediate payment person myself, they came back and said, seamless cross-channel interaction. So we have a separate team that focuses on that. But the second top 2 was a tie between immediate payments, great, at least I'm in there, and in-app, in-store payments. Now, given in-app, in-store payments, we all as consumers can see why that's a benefit to do that. Having that at second place, I thought was reasonable. I was quite happy. At least we beat Internet of Things. And then I thought, well, but why? Why do they see this as being such a big impact? So this study was done by Edgar Dunn. So then we did another study, this time with Ovum. And Ovum studied the European payments merchant market and came back and said that about 65% of those merchants they studied wanted to accept instant payments. This study was last year. I think it's probably still available from our website. Of that, about 82% of that population felt like they believed they understood the benefit of instant payments. So these are merchants that understand instant payments. 2 key benefits they saw. The first one, close to all of our hearts. I'm from the north of England. We like to check our wallets, make sure it's tight. But they said cost. And if they can lower the cost, they can pour that back into many different parts of their business. Sounds obvious. The second one, which was at 78%, was about they believe that instant payments will improve and deliver improvements on customer experience, the holy grail. So the better the customer experience, the more chance you're going to bring repeat purchases back to the store or the e-commerce front end. The more likelihood is they're going to refer somebody else and say good things in social media. So that's all good. These are 2 things. So you could see improved cost, improved customer experience, why 82% of them, is that 82%? 74% of them said they believed instant payments will replace cards over time. Now, that's Europe. So we've long had moves around trying to get away from some of the tie-ins on some of the different card schemes, shall we say. I remember the third way back in the 2000s. And I wanted to check, well, what about the rest of the world? And what are we seeing around the rest of the world? So just a quick picture of the globe there. So where you see the countries, where the country is not light grey, it means one of 3 things. Either instant payments is already there, it's in project, or it's in design. So instant payments, as you can see, we're getting most of the big markets there lighting up. This is continuing. What we've also been seeing in a similar time frame over the last number of years are alternative payment styles, alternative payment methods. We're seeing them launch, these are non-card capabilities. And where immediate payments exists, these capabilities have been using them in what's typically referred to as an overlay service. Now we're seeing those capabilities kind of driving therefore requirement on some of the instant payment rails. So if I just go through a few examples. US. So a little over a year ago, in the US, the clearinghouse, which is it's kind of an interbank processor in the US, they had they'd announced they'd launched their immediate payment rail. They used technology from Vocalink, and they baked on top of that a request for payment capability, all baked in the rail. Now, they're increasing the traction. That had slow adoption so far, but that's increasing. They're still targeting ubiquity in 2020. Now, they're owned by about 25, 26 owner banks. The same owner banks, 7 of those owner banks own Zelle. Now, Zelle, for those of you who might not know, is a person-to-person overlay service. It sits on top of an ACH rail, and that is embedded into the bank's digital arm, so that could be through a bank's mobile app. So consumers in that market are already used to sending each other money and requests to be given money. So then you've got the clearinghouse and Zelle, both owned by the same banks. It's obvious where this is headed. This is headed into that kind of non-card place. And different people you speak to, they will talk about whether or not that's something that's going to happen. The ones I talk to say, yes, it's going to happen. Also in the US, though, there's been a public announcement by MasterCard. So post-acquisition of Vocalink, MasterCard have taken the technology from the UK, what's known as Pay by Bank app, or some people might know as ZAP, and taken that over to the US. Now, they've announced the launch of something called Bill Pay Exchange, which means consumers will be able to pay their bills from a requested payment sent to the mobile phone, swipe, make the payment directly from the account, going through a TCH real-time framework. So that's going to launch later on this year, which brings me back to the UK for a second. So in the UK, I mentioned Pay by Bank app, ZAP. That launched a few years ago. It's had some challenge to get some traction in that market. But we just saw this week that Barclays announced they're actually going to be going live. They've already went live with Ping It. There's about 1 million users. But in 2020, they'll be going live with the remaining 6 million users of that service. So it'll be in the bank app. Plus, they're bringing their merchants into the ecosystem as well. And WorldPay already announced last year they were going to go live Q1 this year. So I wonder if this year we'll start to see the tipping point for ZAP or Pay by Bank app. Let's see. But certainly in the UK economy, UK faster payments have been interested themselves in the request for payment. Now the regulator sort of encouraged that, but faster payments are going to launch that this year. That's a capability to support billers. And the study they did yielded a result of about 1.3 billion per annum pounds of benefit. Now, for those Europeans in here, it pains me to say, but that's about 1.3 billion euros as well. And if we look across Europe as well in terms of readiness, there are a number of, I'm going to call them overlays, like Swish in Sweden, Mobile Pay in Denmark, and Ideal in the Netherlands, who are kind of ripe for this sort of thing. Now, it would be wrong of me to kind of show this slide and talk about the different parts of the world and not really hone in on where the activity is the hottest. And right now, what we are seeing, the most activity is in the East. And out of that, the biggest one by far is India. And we've seen some phenomenal growth, and I'll come on to that next. So one of the organizations you might have heard of, Finextra, tends to talk about Paytm a fair bit. And Paytm recently stated that out of all of the instant payment, of all the utility payments in that market that consumers are paying their utility bills, half of them are going through Paytm through the instant payments capability, which I think sounds quite impressive, assuming it's true. So I just want to bring us onto India. And so firstly, in India, so the immediate payments infrastructure there is called UPI. So let's just talk about what is UPI. So UPI stands for Unified Payments Interface. And that's it was launched in August 2016 by the National Payments Corporation India, another big, interbank processor. And so they launched that in August 16 with a mandate behind them. The regulator, the RBI, the regulator in India, mandated that the banks have to get on board, have to open up access. And so they will open up access to each other. And what that means is, as a consumer that's using UPI, I can use any bank's app to move funds from any bank account across any bank in that system. And so it's very flexible. Takes a while to get your head around it, and I've been there 4 times in the last 6 months. So yeah, so it's an interesting area. We see this as a kind of a really big overlay service covering immediate payments. So not only is it about enabling banks, though, the regulator has encouraged adoption by third parties as well. So some of these banks, and the big banks like State Bank of India, have got like 450 million accounts. They've done partnerships with the likes of Google Pay, WhatsApp. I missed the Amazon Pay announcement, but I'm pretty sure they were talking about that as well today, and they announced it last week, Amazon Pay as well. So that didn't actually happen until round about September last year, and that's when you can see this hockey stick start to occur. So round about then, there was the launch of UPI 2, which moved the whole framework from just being person to person to being person to merchant, or simply merchant retail. And that's when you can start to see these massive growths. Now, this growth is expected to continue, and the likes of Morgan Stanley are expecting that by 2023, UPI, as an immediate payments capability, will overtake cards completely. And certainly it's where ACI is spending a lot of its time right now, making sure that we're part of that phenomenon. I did have some stats as well. Let me pull one out. I wanted to kind of just really bring it to light, the difference in the size of the markets. So if you look at the last month there, December, we're looking at about 650 million transactions. So it's hard to compare a market of the sheer scale of India. But if you look at, say, Norway and UK, look at the debit card transactions market, you're looking at about 165 million transactions per month in Denmark. So it's quite a bit smaller, but this has only been out for like 6 months with merchant payments. The UK, which is a very mature, large debit card market, is 1.3 billion transactions. So it's about half that, and it's only really been running for a year and a half. There are some similarities here with Europe. I think the fact there was a mandate by a regulator to actually open up access, that's clearly something which is very similar. The experience is similar. It's a mobile-centric transaction. With UPI, you're actually authenticating with a PIN, and the PIN goes all the way through to the bank that you're authenticating against. It might not be the same bank that's provided the app. So there's some similarities there, but there are also some differences. So one of the similarities that I mentioned before is that both regulated. But in India, what was regulated was this move to UPI, and UPI is a scheme. Now, obviously, in Europe, it's been regulated to open up access to API, open up API access, but there's no scheme mandate there, not yet. So that might have some challenges and maybe we'll cover that during the panel a little bit. So globally, we are seeing this kind of difference between whether it's regulated, whether it's not, what are the market conditions, they're all changing. And we are in a fortunate position, I suppose, at ACI to serve the banks, the billers, the merchants, the processors. And we've been bringing these guys together, increasingly so, while different markets are kind of grappling with what does this mean to them. So we did something last year, sort of middle to end of last year, where we got a group together and we ran through like innovation case studies, and we said, look, so if the instant payments and this digital phenomena are instant and open, if that's interesting to you, what are the key challenges you've got? And these guys then brainstormed it themselves. We just facilitated with post-it notes, and they then just gathered all of this body of evidence across all of these different segments, and we've collected them into use cases. So we've got them on our website. So this is kind of a blatant call to action. Go to our website, look at these use cases. There's nothing in it for us other than sharing what we've already seen. And we're going to keep doing these. We've got about 9 at the moment. So it's aciworldwide.com/use case. And you should be able to see 9 there. And if you want to have a chat after the session, by all means, I'll be around there. I'll be the guy eating pretzels, drinking beer. I just want to summarize then on my kind of takeaway slide, which is in order to kind of make the instant and open payments work, there's two key things really, and it's kind of age-old and almost obvious, but you've got to protect what you've already got and leverage it, and embrace the new and be ready for change. So Sylvia presented a version of this earlier. We call this our payment hierarchy of needs. I'm sure the marketing team are patting themselves in the back for that one. But it kind of starts at the very bottom, what we call the pyramid. The first hierarchy of need is the ability to sleep at night. Have you got the sleep at night ability? So is it available? Does the platform go down? Is it that we don't want it to go down? Always up, please. We want to have high throughput, ability to scale. And then as you go through the stack, you can start to see things like the ability to actually leverage and orchestrate transactions across the rest of the bank or the processor or the merchant or the biller, whoever, to make sure that they're leveraging what they've already got. But then as you start to get to the peak, you're then starting to automate, you're starting to script, you're starting to make sure you're actually part of that API ecosystem to help you then actually be ready for evolution as it will inevitably continue. So that's it for me. I think that's broadly on time. There's some handles there, or you can just come and grab me at any time over the next couple of days. Thank you very much.